I get approached all the time online by new developers wanting to know what my secret is on how to become a full-time game developer. My short one-word response answer is always consistency, but really what it boils down to in practice is getting your game out in front of as many people as possible. There's multiple schools of thought for this. Lots of people try to make one long game that they spend years working on, years marketing, and try to reach the biggest Steam audience possible, which is completely doable, but that doesn't really work for everyone. So my method over the last few years has always been release multiple games throughout the year and try to sell them on as many platforms as possible. My games are sold on Steam, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and the Atari VCS, coming soon to the Xbox and hopefully one day to the Nintendo Switch. I've found that by making smaller games, it helps you build up a library that will steadily and gradually grow your income stream from game development over time, and it helps you learn more skills quickly as you experiment with different types of genres and different types of games. Last August, I released Tilting Tiles, my first game on the Atari VCS. Coming up soon, I have almost 6 months of Atari development under my belt, and I can tell you this, from my experience and what I have learned, is that game developers are sleeping on the Atari VCS. Let me stop you guys right here. This video is not sponsored. It's not paid for by Atari. No one's telling me to shill Atari in order to sell them more units or anything like that. I made a video and I was real excited about trying out the Ataris like 5 or 6 months ago when I first got my Atari VCS in the mail, and everyone was like, this seems kind of weird, seems kind of sponsored. But the purpose of this video is to tell you my experience as a game developer, what I've learned, why the Atari VCS is awesome, what's not so great about it, and what you should do about it if you're looking to make more money in game development. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll have a little bit more insight on what it's like to develop for the Atari VCS, and that should help you decide whether or not you want to include it in your development cycle. Alright guys, let's start with the good stuff. So number one, this is why the Atari VCS rules, and that is store visibility. Currently, at the time of this recording, there are only 143 games in the Atari VCS store. That is absolutely amazing. It only takes about 5 to 10 minutes for users to scroll through the entire store and see your thumbnail of your game and determine whether or not they want to click on it and learn more. In contrast, if we take a look at some of the main platforms that most people develop and put games on, there are so many games that are coming out, it's almost impossible to get natural visibility. You're buried instantly in a catalog of millions of games that are releasing. Steam has around 40 games that launch per day. The last time that I checked, whenever I launched my last game on Steam, after going around maybe 2 hours, my game was completely buried on the new games list with like 30 games that have already released after it. It's absolutely insane how many games release each year on all of those platforms. PlayStation is now becoming the same way. The floodgates have opened on that platform, and there are tons and tons of competition on all of those platforms, and it is much harder for your game to stand out and be seen by customers. Number two is ease of development. For most people I know, they do use the Unity game engine, and once you get past the NDA process with Atari and get your hands on the Atari development documentation, getting your game working in Unity and running on Atari VCS happens really quickly. There's not a whole lot of work that you have to do. There are things you have to do to make sure it works well and that it uploads and it plays well with the Atari VCS, of course, but it's nothing like what it takes to get a game running on the PlayStation or the Xbox. Also, to tag along with this point, all you have to do for the Atari VCS is just make a fun game. It makes development fun again, actually, when you're not worrying about achievements and online implementation and features like PlayStation activities and all these things you have to include in all these games on other platforms that really slow down development. With the Atari, all you got to do is focus on actually making your game. Number three on why developing for Atari is awesome is the royalty split. Atari actually gives you an 80-20 royalty split, which is better than the industry standard of 70-30. There really isn't a whole lot to say here. You just get to keep more of the money that you make by selling your games. And the fourth and final thing on why the Atari VCS development is awesome is that they have an active audience. Sure, the system is pretty niche. Sure, the install size is pretty small. But the people who own the systems actually actively enjoy playing the systems, and they're willing to check out and try and experience new types of games, which is super awesome for small developers like me. Now, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't mention any of the drawbacks of the system. There are a few, so I'll go ahead and mention them to you guys now. This might make some of you a little wary. You know, it's not the same as something that's as polished as the PlayStation. The user experience is not as good. The first thing I'd say that's a big drawback is the initial user setup. Sometimes people can buy a new VCS and get stuck in like an update loop, and then you have to like reflash the system and kind of like build it from scratch. And if you're just a regular consumer and you don't really know much about computers, that can be super annoying and difficult to deal with. So I know that that does make some customers upset. And number two, to kind of tag along with this point, there's also some more frustrations with new accounts purchasing games sometimes. Sometimes when you buy a new VCS, set up a new account, try to get on the store, there's an error with the payment processor, and you get errors trying to put in your zip codes, and then it just won't let you buy any new games. So that's also super annoying. The only thing I have to say about those two issues is Atari is aware of both of them. They've been working and attempting on trying to fix them with different patches and updates, so new players won't have to experience that in the future. But as far as I'm aware, they're not totally ironed out yet. But the other good thing is they do have a really active support system in their Atari VCS Discord community. So if you jump in there and you have any of these problems, someone from Atari or another user will definitely be able to help you out, go through some troubleshooting with you, and if you can make it through the initial setup, you're in for a good time. The third thing I want to mention for a drawback is the system itself isn't the most powerful system in the world. It's not bad, but it's not like the power you get from even just a PlayStation 4. Definitely nothing like a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox. So if your game is heavily intensive and has very beautiful, you know, high fidelity 3D graphics, you might have some trouble getting the game running unless you're highly optimized. So development on this system might not be suited for everyone, but if you guys are targeting Nintendo Switch as one of your platforms of choice, you got a low poly game, you have a 2D game, anything like that, this system will be a breeze for you to develop on, and this is not totally a drawback for you. It mostly goes for people who are making higher end 3D games. And one more thing to note for developers who are really just budding developers, just starting out and who've never released any games before, ever, you can't be really like putting prototypes and stuff on here and unpolished games. There is some store curation basically that you have to go through an approval process to get your game on the store. So you need to have a functioning game. It needs to look nice, you know, that kind of thing. You really think that that shouldn't have to be said, but you know, it's not an experimental platform is what I'm trying to say. If you've released a game on Steam and people have bought it and played it, most likely they'll let you get it on the Atari VCS and people will also buy it and play it and enjoy it. But you know, it's not like a testing ground for new ideas is what I'm trying to say. So guys, here's my quick takeaway. There's two ways to look at this system and where it fits into your development cycle. One, if you're a game developer like me and you're working on a bunch of little games and you're trying to get them out on as many platforms as possible, this is just another platform to add to that list. It's really not that hard to figure out. It doesn't take all that much time, and it will be an additional income stream that you can layer in with all of your other income streams, which is exactly how I use it. I've been paid for 6 months now, and the sales, I would like to tell you what they are, but that's all covered on NDA. I can say, you know, it's, you know, we all know it's a niche system. The user base is not massive, but you do sell your games on there. And to me, you know, I'm selling half the time, I'm selling more on the VCS than I am on Steam. So with all that being said, you should be able to realize, oh, okay, maybe there is some potential there. The other way to look at it is a good mid-step from PCs to full major consoles. If you're a developer who's only ever made games for Steam and you're trying to get to maybe like a PlayStation or an Xbox, but you know, that's kind of complicated. There's a lot of steps legally down the road. You have to form a company, you know, an LLC. If you haven't done all of that, but you're trying to experiment with console development, well, the VCS could be a good step in between those two because it's kind of like a mixture between an actual game console and a PC. That's how they market it and sell it. To me, I look at it more of a game console experience, so you can get a little bit of the idea of how it would work to develop and ship a game on a console, and then by the time you get to PlayStation, you're going to have to learn a whole lot more than you do with the back end of the VCS, but it's good learning experience to help you get there in the future. So in my opinion, I think there are a lot of developers out there that this would make a perfect sense for in terms of adding it to their development cycle, and they're definitely missing out by ignoring it just because it's niche. So if you want to support this community, you want to see it grow, you want to start developing it for yourself, you can go ahead and check it out. It's pretty cool. The VCS is in stock still at Best Buy, Amazon, and Atari's website themselves. We have affiliate links down below if you want to click through Amazon and buy it there. However, I really don't recommend doing that because it's like $400 on Amazon, and right now on Atari's website they have the system with 2 controllers on sale for like $240, so there's no real reason to do that. I just needed to mention it down below because we're going to put it there anyways. I mean, you know, maybe if you're watching this video 6 months in the future it would make sense, but for right now it definitely doesn't. But yeah, all retail kits can be used as development kits. You can also switch off using it as a retail kit and a development kit so you can play games yourself, get a feel for the system, and then boot it up in development mode and then work on your own games. So you can always check it out if you're interested and you think that this is a good idea for you to add into your library. You can always ask me questions if you want to get a little bit more information. You can leave a comment down below. You can join our Discord and we can talk to you a little bit more about getting started with Atari development if you have any questions. But hopefully you found this video interesting because I don't really see a lot of developers talking about Atari. I see a lot of fans making, you know, YouTube videos about why it's fun or what games you should play on there or why you should buy one. But, you know, this video is to say that, hey, developers are sleeping on the Atari VCS. There is an income stream out there for you, and it's a fun platform to actually make games and run and test them on. So hopefully you found this interesting. Before we go today, I got to give a huge shout out to everybody who supports Treefall Studios on patreon.com. I got to give a personal shout out to Carmen Red, Shark and Minnow, PLP, Thomas Stewart, and Ben Josh. Thank you guys for what you do for Treefall Studios on patreon.com. All right, guys, without further ado, have you played Atari today? I will catch you in the next video.